Welcome back to the Optics Talk podcast. We're well into January 2025 and SHOT Show is on the horizon. For those of you who do not know, every year, Shooting, Hunting, Outdoors Trade Show is held in Las Vegas, or more commonly known as SHOT Show. At SHOT Show, the industry showcases items that they are working on, some that they're preparing to release, and others they're still testing out, but they want to show what they have on the table. With that being said, I felt like I wanted to touch on one of my favorite optics I have ever owned. Today we're going to look at the Primary Arms GLX 2.5-10 power by 44mm first focal plane optic with the ACSS mill reticle, which has been designed by the mastermind behind Primary Optics, Demitri. Now I apologize, Demitri, I actually don't know your last name, or is it your first name? Anyways, this has been designed by the mastermind Demitri. He is a genius at designing optics and some very innovative optics and reticles, if I must say so myself. Now, Primary Arms has recently discontinued this specific line of optics this past year, and with SHOT Show on the horizon and new items waiting to be released, I wanted to take the time to talk about what I would consider, in my humble opinion, one of the best designed and most well-balanced optics fielded, in hopes that they will be releasing a newer and updated model here in the near future. So a little background. Years ago, before we had the terms like low power variable optics and of course mid power variable optics, when optics were just optics, I was reading an article in the mid 2000s talking about picking the best scope for the AR-15. The author, Jeff Hoffman of Black Hills Ammunition, was talking about an ideal AR-15 rifle with a 2-to-10 powered optic. He went in depth how it was one of the most versatile, with an ultra-low magnification, but yet a top-end magnification that would be just enough for the marksman or the police sniper. Just imagine the Mark 12 SBR and you'll get the picture, or the idea. Well, 20 or so years later has passed, and thousands of rounds downrange, several classes, and now being certified in one or two things myself, and this now makes perfect sense. Many times the shooter wants to zoom in to get his best view as possible, so they will purchase a scope with a very high-end magnification. I myself have been known to do this. While that's nice for reading the newspaper 2 counties away, it is not the most optimum choice when doing Overwatch, or when we need to act as the eyes and ears of the commander, and thus we are zoomed in too far and not able to observe the entire picture to understand the totality of the circumstances when something happens. I digress, but we'll get back to that. With the discontinuation of this optic, I wanted to talk about it for a minute in hopes that Primary Arms will launch a new version of this. That being said, what is my relationship with Primary Arms Optics? Well, to be quite frank, they don't know who I am, and if they did, I doubt they would care. I'm sure they do know who my wallet is and my debit card pretty well, since I've been known to buy a few things from there. The closest I have come is talking to Demitri a few times on social media. We've discussed the Primary Arms 3X micro prism. I'm sure you've seen the video I've done, and if so, and if you are interested, I will also have a link in the description box below. So the first things we're going to discuss is the specs on this scope. Next, we're going to cover the reticle. After that, we will cover how it fits in as a mid-power variable optic. But also, we must talk about a few negatives. And finally, I will give my opinion on why it is one of the best and well-balanced optics on the market. From the Primary Arms website, Primary Arms shows that the click value is 0.1 of a mil, meaning you have to dial 10 clicks before you hit 1 mil at 100 yards. Now, of course, the color is black. Exit pupil would be at low end, it'll be 16.7 millimeters, and the high end 4.4 millimeters. Now, I don't speak millimeters to inches, so you're going to have to do the conversion yourself. Of course, as I stated, it is first focal plane, and the reticle is illuminated. Your power magnification is 2.5 to 10 power. Now, is this, according to Primary Optics, this is night vision capable, though I have not tested it because I do not own a night vision optic. It has two different reticles. It has the ACSS Griffin mill, which uses mill reticle. Now, as I have stated before, mills is the way of the future. If you're not using mils, there is something wrong. They also do offer the ACSS Raptor M2. I have never tested that, nor have I ever used it, so I cannot speak on that. Total elevation of the dials is 37 mil and total windage is 37 mil. Again, I have not dialed these to be able to verify that, so again, these are things that I cannot specify or verify. Absolute weight of this is 22.5 ounces. Now it's a hefty little thing, but again, there is always positives to everything. Your field of view at 100 yards is on the low end 35 feet. On the high end, you only have 10 feet of magnification. The reticle. From the Primary Arms website, the ACSS Griffin mill reticle includes a center-down chevron aiming point, a moving lead dots, and a mill MRAD reticle grid system extending down 15 mil and 6 mil to each side of the center. The hallmark of the ACSS system is the chevron, which has what has been referred to as an infinite aiming point. Also, for ultra-precise shots, it is greatly appreciated, as you will put the very point on where you're aiming at. Outside of the ACSS chevron, a thick CQB horseshoe surrounds the reticle to provide a bold point of aim that catches the eye instantly at low magnifications and a quick reflexive shooting at close-up ranges. That is a lot to say. On each side of the horseshoe, ladders are built into the left and right side of the horseshoe. These aid in quick estimation when calculating distance for engagements. As already stated, the chevron is a simplified version of the Christmas tree reticle. This one is a mil or MRAD based with 15 mil down and 6 to each side, or 12 mil across. This is extremely helpful when you need to make a hit and don't have the time to dial. Other features that aren't always offered are illuminated reticle. This is a standard on most Primary Arms reticles. The 2.5-10 illumination dial has an on and off setting between each brightness setting. I hope that other companies take note of this, as this is a nice helpful feature that sometimes you don't want to have to dial all the way down, that you may have a specific illumination that you prefer. As I've stated before, for the past 5 years, I've worked at night, so visual acuity when using this optic is important. Visual acuity is the ability of your eyes to distinguish between objects that you see when standing at a specific distance. Remember though, this is a subjective topic when discussed from the lens of a common person. So from my observations, the 2-5 gives you a sharp enough image even in low light conditions in urban terrain. Others may have different ways to measure this, and if so, I would love to understand how that is done. Negatives. This isn't so much of a negative as much as things that I would like to see an improvement on, if there is an improved version of this. Starting on the outside and working our way in, an improvement would be capping the windage knob instead of having a zero stop. I've never seen anybody who actually dials for windage on a AR when we're talking about a mid-range optic, say to about 600 yards. It's not to say that people don't do it, I've just never seen it. The windage knob is set in 0.1 mil increments. It'd be quicker and ultimately more efficient to use the reticle to hold for wind versus dialing. Yes, the exposed windage knobs do allow you to have the option for dialing, but the time that you will be dialing in the field is very limited. The money invested in that part of the manufacturing process would be better suited for other aspects. Speaking of that, the reticle. I really like the reticle, and I've talked a lot and in depth how much I like this reticle. I think it's a great reticle, but there is issues with the illumination. I've noticed that for a lack of better wording, there appears to be bleeding through, where portions of the reticle has the illumination bleeding from around it. Now this may or may not be an issue with other people, but it is something that I find to be distracting. And I hope that if there is a newer version or a newer generation or a new model of this, that will be an issue that's addressed. Its role. What role does this optic play or perform for the marksman? Optics is very similar to the types that was employed for the Mark 12 SPR in the early 2000s. Though this is not a perfect copy or even trying to replicate that or mimic It has very similar attributes and performs at a very similar level when the user applies all the feature sets, giving the marksman just enough magnification on the high end to be able to place accurate shots on targets, as well as overwatch capabilities, but still being able to dial down to the lowest power and shoot with both eyes open, similar to the Biden aiming concept. This was a concept pioneered by Trijicon's founder, the late Glenn Biden. It's been said, though, that it's a bit hefty compared to other similar optics in this range. And this can be a benefit, as extra weight assists when taking multiple shots on one target. The weight, though, isn't so bad that it detracts from making quick shots when you're working in an up-close environment. I have found this not to be an issue, but then again, even at my age, I do go to the gym, so I'll just leave that there. So what are my final thoughts? To summarize, I still like this optic. It's been one of my favorites since I first got it. And at its price point, you're still getting a hell of a deal when you compare this to other similar design optics but at a higher price. Would I purchase this again? Oh yes, I would. This is the fourth Primary Primary Arms optic I have owned. And to be quite honest, I'm still happy with the products that Primary Arms has been putting out these past few years. What does the future hold? Since I'm not affiliated with them in any way, I cannot say. I'm curious to see what comes out at this year's SHOT Show and what new offerings are going to be displayed. Will they come out with the next generation of this? I surely hope so. I do have another upper I'd like to put one on, and I think that an improved model would be great. But as for me, though, as for today, I will continue using this optic, and I will probably put out some more future informational content, at least with the reticle, if anyone is interested.